Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the She Exudes Now virtual talk. I am the host, Alicia Renee, and I'm also the founder of The Confident Lily. And I am excited, as always, to introduce our speaker today and just to share more about our topic today. I feel that many people are going to relate to this topic and hopefully gain a lot of insight out of it as well. So, as you know, this She Exudes Now virtual talk is a chance for women to feel empowered, to learn more, and to be inspired. We know that we go through a variety of different issues every day. And so the live serves to provide opportunities for women to be more faithful and just cover a variety of topics. So today we're going to be talking about healthy living and food freedom. So I am going to bring to the stage my guest for today. It is Miss Rachel King. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited just to learn more about what you have to share with us today. So, Rachel is a Christian nutritionist. Is that right? Or nutrition coach, and also a mindset coach. So, if you know anything about committing to a healthy lifestyle or wanting to lose weight, you know the struggle is real. And this struggle is often not in the kitchen. And it's not necessarily in the gym either, but it really starts in the mind. So I'm going to let Rachel just take a moment to introduce herself and also to share more about her journey, how she became a nutrition coach and mindset coach. But before that, I'd like to ask all my guests, what are you exuding today? So, Rachel, is there anything in particular you're exuding?
At this moment, joy. Because I love getting to share this and getting to talk about this. Like, this kind of stuff lights me up because this message needs to be spread. So I
Right.
am so joyful and blessed that I get the opportunity to do this every single day.
Yes, that's awesome. And I'm just going to piggyback on that. So I would say that what I'm exuding today is just a feeling of gratefulness because I get to meet so many different types of people. And I love connecting and networking with like minded women, especially ones that have a story to tell and something that I can gain from as well. So, again, thank you for participating. But I'm just so thankful of all the relationships that I've made in this industry. It's great.
Yeah.
All
Isn't it
right.
so fun that we get to do this for a living and get to meet so many different people that we would never have the chance to do? I mean, that's just
It
awesome.
is. It is. You mentioned on Instagram that your background is accounting. So my background is finance and accounting. And yeah, I would have never thought in a million years that I would be doing this. I didn't even consider myself to really be a people person, but
Yeah.
it's so amazing how life changes, our directions in life changes, and how God really just kind of brings things to the forefront, and you begin to become a different person. So thank God for change.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, I was such an introvert in high school
Mm.
and college. I found a loophole to get out of speech class. So to do this, this is totally God.
Yep, I get it. I get it. I'm definitely not the same person that I was in college. All right, so I'm going to let you have the floor so you can just share more about yourself and how you got to this journey.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, first and foremost, I am a child of God, and that is, um, He is the reason that I am on this journey and that I have been blessed with this career. My name is Rachel King, as Alicia said, and I am a wife. I'm a mom. I have a 3-year-old little boy, and I am a certified nutrition coach. And my journey started back when I was, if we're really going to get down to the nitty gritty, I was overweight as a child. So I've always struggled with weight. But my real journey started when I was 21 years old. And I was actually diagnosed with high blood pressure and having migraines and just having a lot of health stuff. And I gone to the doctor and she checked my blood pressure and it was extremely high. And she said, "We're going to have to put you on blood pressure medication." And I looked at her and I was like, "I'm 21." And I knew, I knew I was overweight. I knew that. And I asked her, I was like, "If I lose weight, will I be able to come off of this medication?" And she looked at me and she said, "Well, I mean, it's in your genes, so it's probably just genetic. I wouldn't even worry about it." And that answer just did not sit well with me because I knew I had eaten my way into this and I was going to be the one to have to do something about it. I didn't want to be on medication forever. I was 21. So that is where my journey began. And I did everything the wrong way. I did all the fad diets. I cut calories. I cut carbs. Any fad diet you could think of. I think I did Weight Watchers, Slim Fast, Atkins, all the things. Restricted calories way, way, way too low. Did everything the wrong way. So I actually went to the other end of the spectrum where I got obsessed with it. And like I said, did everything the wrong way. I was only eating like 1,000 calories a day and was just in like a brain fog. And so I walked in to the Christian bookstore one day and the Daniel plan was on sale. It was in the front of the store. And I thought, oh, I'll pick that up. Probably has some really great recipes in it. And I opened it to the section on gluttony because I was in this really bad restrict and binge cycle, right? Because that's what we do when we restrict down to, no calories. We have these binge cycles and we just go back and forth and we wreck our metabolism, which we'll kind of get into a little later. But that's where I was. And I opened it to the section on gluttony. And it was like God just got a hold of me and shook me and said, "Rachel, you weren't treating your body as the temple that it should be when you were overweight. And you're not treating it as your body as the temple that it should be now because you're not feeding it." And I was being a glutton in those binge cycles because gluttony is a sin we don't like to talk about. And we'll talk about that more later too. But he just really got a hold of me during that. And that is when I made the decision to get my nutrition coaching certification and help women not have to go through the same struggles that I went through trying to figure all of this out on your own. Because think about it, when mom's healthy, most of the time, the rest of the family's healthy too. We set that tone for our household. So it's not even just about you, it's about your whole family. I know when I got married, my husband didn't really care about eating healthy, and he is my backbone. Like, he is such a great supporter, and he has been very supportive of instilling healthy habits in our son. And so that is such a wonderful purpose to me, to be able to help women in particular get healthy and strong and fuel their bodies the way that they're supposed to, so they can go out and fulfill their greater purpose.
Mm-hmm. Love, love, love that. Love that story. And I'm sure many people can identify with that. I love how you really kind of honed in to what the Bible said about gluttony, because it is one of those topics or those sins that we feel like, oh, we'll just overlook that, or it's not
Yeah,
a big one.
right.
But to overindulge in anything is really it's really doing a disjustice to ourselves. And also it
Mhm.
is gluttony. It is putting something before God. And
Mhm.
also when it takes control of us and we feel like we have to have it,
Yeah.
that's also when it becomes an issue. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. So, as we
Yeah.
think about and talk about healthy living and eating right, wanting to lose weight, the health and wellness industry is so it's so wealthy. It's so vast. There's
Yeah.
so many people and so many products out there to try to target people who want to
Yeah.
live healthy, who want to look better, who want to feel better, all of that. So My question is, why is it so hard? What is preventing us from being able to commit to actually making the changes that we need? And
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a variety of reasons, but from your standpoint, what are some of the stumbling blocks that people face?
Yeah. Well, I think, yes, in some circumstances, there are true stumbling blocks, like there are legitimate reasons.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I see a lot is that we just aren't making a priority, right? Because a lot of times, these are the top three that I see. I see people say they just don't have the time,
Mhm.
they don't have the money, and then their mindset is just not in it.
Mhm.
And that's, kind of like what you talked about when we first started this. It's all about your mindset. If
Mhm.
your mindset's not in it, just like in anything else in life, you're not going to be successful. But I want to kind of talk about time. Like, I feel like that's a huge stumbling block for a lot of
Mhm.
people. "Well, I just don't have the time. I don't have the time to meal prep. I don't have the time to plan my meals out. I don't have the time to cook. I don't have the time. I just don't have the time. I don't have the
Mhm.
time to work out." It always goes back to that. But think about how many hours probably did you spend scrolling on your phone yesterday?
Mhm.
Like, you you do have the time. It's reframing it and saying, "I'm not making that a priority in my
Mhm.
day."
Yes.
Um, you can fit you can fit in a 20 to 30-minute workout in
Mhm.
some point of the day. Now, some days, okay, no, not every day. But for the majority of the time, you can typically wake up half an hour earlier, um, on your lunch break, whatever the case may be. And a lot of times for moms, another big one that comes up is, well, I just don't have the time because of my kids. You
Mhm.
know, let your kids work out with you, right? Let
Mhm.
them see you, and make it like normalize exercise.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not bragging on myself or any means because I do a lot of things wrong.
Mhm.
But for exercise, like, Grayson comes and does it with me. Like, I bought him his own little set of dumbbells for Christmas, and he thinks it's just so fun. Like, it's a game. And he talks about, eating broccoli, getting big and strong because he eats his vegetables. And that's another thing. Like,
Mhm.
the time excuse with the kids, involve them. Like, take them to the grocery store, let them pick out fruits and vegetables and things like that, that are different and fun, and come up with a recipe you can make together. Like,
Mhm.
involve them in the kitchen, let them help, especially if you have little ones, because they love to help. Like, they
Mhm.
get to the age where they don't, but when they're little, they love to help. So involve them in the process, and then you're instilling those healthy habits in them, so they grow up with the mindset that you're seeking to find, right? Because you don't
Mhm.
have them, you had to try to get there. So they already have that mindset. They don't have to go through that struggle. They
Mhm.
don't have to try to figure it out. Um, but the mindset piece is huge. We don't take the time. We say we don't have the money, when a lot of times we do. It's just we're not prioritizing this to
Mhm.
use the money, because we'll go buy clothes. Like, we'll scroll on our phone and see a shirt we think is cute. Oh, add to cart, and don't think anything
Yes.
about it. But when you're talking about investing in a coaching program, or investing in a gym membership, or going to the grocery store and buying healthy food, I hear all the time, "Oh, eating healthy is just so expensive."
Mhm.
Well, it may cost a little more, monetarily, but what's it costing you? Well, as far as your health goes,
Mhm.
and will it cost you more when you're older and you're having to pay hospital bills or pay for medications because you didn't take care of your body when you were younger? So expensive and cost, there are multiple ways to look at that,
Mhm.
right? It's not just about the price tag on the food. And when we look at the nutrients in the food, when you fill up on processed foods because it's cheap, you
Mhm.
don't get full, right? You're still hungry. because you're basically eating starchy carbs.
Mm-hmm.
So you end up eating more than you would have if you had just bought the healthy food. So actually, it's not cheaper to buy the
Mm-hmm.
junk.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's another mindset shift, right? All of that is a mindset shift.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just lining up what what we've been taught in the Bible about treating our body as a temple
Mm-hmm.
and knowing our worth and realizing that we are worthy and giving ourselves grace to mess up because we will mess up.
Yes.
We
Mm-hmm.
will mess up every day, you know? Um, but having the mindset where if we do mess up, we don't have to just throw in the towel and say, I'm just meant to be fat. This is just not for me. I can't do this.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's having the grace, right? And accepting God's grace to be like, okay, that was a bad decision. Let me pick myself back up and start again tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely love how you brought in time and money as some of the stumbling blocks, because those are frequent concerns. And definitely when you spoke about the money that you spend in trying to do some preventative, well, not necessarily preventative maintenance, but trying to pay for medications because you're not feeling well, and then having to go to the doctor, hospital costs, all of that. Yes, you probably could have prevented some of those expenses if you had just adopted a healthier lifestyle to begin
Right.
with. So you may spend a little bit more money now, or invest a little bit more time now, but the reward is so much greater in return. I know for
Right.
myself, um, being a single mother, that had always been a concern. Well, I don't have time. But, when you commit to doing something, you can find time. When my son was
Yeah.
really young, I joined a gym. I love to do Zumba and kickboxing, things like that. And I said, I really want to commit to this. So what do? I have to pay a little bit more so that he can go to the daycare at the gym. And it just
Yeah.
became something that he really enjoyed doing. So it was our outing, something fun that we both enjoyed doing.
Yes.
And even during COVID, when we couldn't go to the gym, we made it a routine to go and take walks on nature trails and things like that, just to get fresh air. But we talked during that time and we were exercising. So when you look at
Yes.
it like that, when you're kind of killing, two or three birds with one stone, it does work out because you do have the time. You just have to prioritize and fit it in. You do have the money. You don't have to get all the expensive diet foods and all the expensive products.
Right.
Um, I love what you said about the processed foods as well. Because yesterday for breakfast, I just had an omelet and a nectarine. And I was so surprised because I thought that I was going to be hungry and I was full. The nectarine just was kind of the icing on the cake, and it held for a few hours and I was fine. And so
Yeah.
that's very affordable, minimum cost for a
Right.
simple meal.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't I love that you said you don't have to buy all the expensive diet food.
Hmm.
A lot of the diet food out there is actually just like processed food in disguise.
Mm. Hmm.
Because if you read the ingredients, there's a lot of them you can't pronounce.
Yeah.
Really don't know what you're eating. And so you really don't have to. That's what I teach in my programs is like, let's eat food closer to God's hands.
Mm. Hmm.
Um, and I want to credit my friend Amanda Kelder because she uses that phrase closer to God's hands than man's hands.
Mm.
But I teach that in my in my one-on-one programs and in my group programs is that you don't have to rely on the fancy diet food. You don't have to eat diet
Hmm.
food. You just eat real food, and you're getting the nutrients you need. Right?
Hmm.
You're getting full because you're filling up on the nutrition that God provided us. I mean,
Right.
they didn't have all that stuff back in Daniel's day, right?
Hmm.
he
Yeah.
he was extremely healthy on fruits and vegetables. So God provides. He gave manna from the sky. God gives
Mhm.
us what we need. So we don't have to spend a fortune on all of the
Mhm.
diet food. We just have to invest in ourselves with real food and
Yeah. Yeah.
learn how to eat.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. Now let's talk about a little bit about mindset because you mentioned
Yeah.
that before and how critical of a role that plays in your ability to stick to a diet or
Mhm.
not even a diet, to commit to a lifestyle change. Do you have more that you can share about mindset?
Yeah. I have a ton to share on mindset. It's one of
It's
my favorite things to talk about.
important.
But mindset's everything, right? It plays
Mhm.
the key role. And we kind of touched on this on Instagram. And I love that you asked this because our thoughts can have so much power if
Mhm.
we allow them. So many times, the negative thoughts and the negative self talk creeps in. And after that, so do the thoughts of anxiety and depression and the negative behaviors like
Mhm.
emotional eating, for example.
Mhm.
Um, to get emotionally and mentally healthy and strong, you have to become aware of your thought patterns.
Mhm.
Um, More often than not, the lies that we tell ourselves or the lies that we continue to believe about ourselves are the reasons we stay overweight,
Mhm.
depressed,
Mhm.
anxious, and stuck. They're not true. They're just the lies that we believe about ourselves.
Mhm.
One of the most common things I hear, and we talked about this too, one of the most common things I hear when talking to people is they say, I just have no control when it comes to their appetite or cravings or certain foods or their unhealthy relationship with food.
Mhm.
But if if you've said, and I've said that in the past, so no judgment here, but if you've said these words or something similar, I want to invite everybody that's listening to this, I want to invite you to ask yourself a question. Is that true? Is it really true that you have no control over
Mhm.
this area? When you sit down and get really honest with yourself, you'll find that you do have some control.
Mhm.
But by thinking that you didn't and believing that lie, you actually gave yourself permission to not have control because you
Oh,
told
wow.
yourself you didn't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And another one that I kind of talked about when I was, doing my introduction is another big one is, well, it's just in my genes.
Mhm.
And I personally, busted that myth because high blood pressure was in my genes, but when
Mhm.
I was diagnosed and told that it was the reason, I lost 45 pounds and I proved that it wasn't in my
Mhm.
genes.
Mhm.
So mindset plays such a huge role. Like you get in control of your thoughts, you can conquer the world.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That when you mention it like that, it really it's really impactful, at least to me, because your mindset does play such a large role in how you lead your life
Yeah.
in so many different areas of life. And as you said, it's kind of the lies that you tell yourself or the lies that you believe. So it may have
Mhm.
come from outside sources. And
Mhm.
I kind of liken it to kind of like an assembly line or a receptor. So the thought will come into your head, and it's
Yeah.
typically probably a negative thought. That's the first thought that will come into your head. But what do you do with that thought? Do you send it right back out? Or if you miss it, because sometimes during assembly line they miss some
Yeah.
items that were not acceptable. If you miss it, are you going to allow another defective, or in this case, another lie to come through and you actually process it or believe it? So we may not necessarily be able to control the first thought that comes to our mind, which may be negative, but we certainly can control that second one because we're aware that this is in the atmosphere and this thought exists. And so,
Mm.
even with my coaching and trying to help women feel more confident and to be more faithful and to just be bold, if they don't feel that they can do it, and like you said, if they keep speaking things into existence, even unconsciously, then they're probably not going to do it. And I know I'm guilty of that
Yeah.
myself because when I turned 40, I began to just think about, well, maybe my body is never going to be the same. But that's not true. That's not true. It doesn't have to be that
Right.
way. People have proved
Yeah.
otherwise many times.
Yeah.
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 So,
And that's a common lie that
mm-hmm,
people tell themselves when they get to 30, 40, 50, 60, that they're just destined to be that way. They just
mm-hmm,
can't lose weight like they used to. And
mm-hmm,
yes, your bodies do change over time, and hormones have a big part in it. You may not look like you did before,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but there's nothing defective about your body just because you hit a certain number. That's
Yes.
just what
Mm-hmm,
we've been told.
mm-hmm.
And it's a lie that we believe.
Yeah.
And I love that you said when you become aware, the awareness is so key
Mm-hmm,
because you then have the ability to break through that thought pattern
mm-hmm,
because you're aware of it and it comes up. And I want to credit one of my mentors, Alex Purse Club here. She is constantly saying things like when the subconscious likes to sneak in and say mean things to you, you become aware of it, you're like, "Oh, look, there's that thought again,"
uh-huh.
and just kinda own it, be like, "Oh, look, I'm, uh, I'm saying mean things to myself again," or
Mm-hmm,
"I'm believing those lies again,"
mm-hmm,
and sit in it for a minute and then replace it with the truth.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's all about awareness, definitely.
Mhm.
Now let's talk about a food addiction, or
Yes.
just feeling an overwhelming feeling that you have to consume something or you don't have the willpower. So we mentioned that a little bit before, but the concept of food addiction is real because there are certain foods that can have addictive properties. There are
Yeah,
certain ingredients or the way that we cook our foods that can cause us to crave some things more than others. So,
right.
from a nutrition standpoint, can you share more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Sugar.
Mm.
That's the number one the
Yep.
number one
Good old
addictive
sugar.
issue. Yes. Yes, and even if you don't claim to be a sweets person per se, sugar is hidden in so many things.
Mm.
If you look at labels, sugar is in things you wouldn't even really realize, like pasta sauce, for example. If you
Mhm,
buy pasta sauce, there's probably sugar in it.
mhm.
Um, Peanut butter, almond butter, there's sugar in that, when it should really just be peanuts or
Yeah.
almonds. Um, there's sugar hidden in so many things, and sugar is a lot like alcohol or cocaine.
Mm.
It's been linked to be just as addictive as those
Wow.
things. If you eat a diet loaded down with sugar, reward signals are generated in your brain, leading to addiction.
Mm.
And this starts when we're young, and I am not judging anybody right now. I want to go ahead and say this, but
Mhm.
these are just patterns that happen. And we were guilty with it when Grayson started potty training. We started with the gummies.
Yeah.
We treat it as a reward.
Mhm.
We quickly, you know, didn't do that anymore. We saw where that was going. But we have been guilty of it.
Mhm.
So I'm not judging anybody because 'cause I've done the same thing, but it starts when we're young. Parents reward kids for good behavior or
Mhm.
going to the potty or finishing dinner, whatever the case may be, with candy or sugary snacks. And this becomes a habit. We've
Mhm.
now turned something harmful, if you eat anything in excess, it becomes harmful.
Mhm.
But this sugar-laden food, we've turned that into a comfort food,
Mhm.
and we grow up this way, and then we're conditioned to feel like we need something sweet after dinner,
Mhm.
and we even say things like, "I need to get my sweet fix."
Yes.
It becomes a crutch. Yeah, and I'm not saying, I've never given my son treats. I think it's fun to have treats as
Mhm.
long as they stay treats, right?
Mhm.
Like, we go have ice cream once a week, and that's a fun treat. We don't have ice cream
Mhm.
every day,
Mhm.
you know? So, keeping it as a treat, it's not part of your daily life, But it's being mindful and making it something special, not in every
Mhm.
meal habit that we learn to depend on. And we learn to depend on it, our bodies begin to crave it, and we become addicted to it. And that's just like drugs. Um,
Mhm.
and that's why it is a food addiction.
Right.
So some of my top tips to really break some of these learned habits really depend on learning to fuel your body properly. Um,
Mhm.
we're still ditching the diet mentality, and just learning how to eat, right? Not dieting, just eating for your individual goals.
Mhm.
Um, I do suggest eating regularly, whatever that looks like for you. Like if you are a 3 meals per day person, or if you're a 3 meals and 2 snacks per day person, whatever that looks like. But people who skip meals and don't eat regularly throughout the day have a drop in blood sugar levels, and that
Mhm.
causes them to feel hungry and crave sugary snacks.
Okay. Mhm.
Um, I also really suggest, like you talked about your omelet, that was a protein-filled breakfast, right? And that kept you
Mhm.
full. So
Mhm.
I also really suggest having a protein-filled breakfast. Now, I'm a huge pancake person. That is my
I
favorite.
love it.
They're my favorite thing in the whole wide world. But
Mhm.
we typically only have pancakes usually on the weekends at my house, because when your day starts off with starchy carbs like bagels, muffins, cereal, the typical American breakfast,
Mhm.
you're hungrier and you crave starchy foods all day long.
Hmm.
And with that being said, make sure you're incorporating protein, carbs, and fats at every meal to keep your meals balanced and your blood sugar levels balanced as well. We hear about this a lot when people have diabetes, but it's really
Mhm.
important for everybody to keep their
Mhm.
blood sugar levels balanced. And then the final thing that moms in particular don't do enough is sleep.
I was just gonna say that. How does that affect things?
And I'm so guilty. I do try to
Mhm.
prioritize sleep, but,
Mhm.
I have a very early riser.
Mhm.
So, he's a good sleeper. He typically sleeps all night, but, he's up, and we had to buy him one of those clocks, the lights that, turns green whenever it's time to get up, because if we
Oh.
don't, then he's up when the sun's up.
Oh,
Like, he's
wow.
up at 4:35, like, he's up.
Mhm.
Um, so we didn't get a lot of sleep for a while, and that there's a noticeable difference when you don't get enough sleep, because
Mhm.
if your body doesn't get enough fuel in the tank at night, it's going to search for it the next day.
Yes. Yep.
And what gives you energy? It's that quick, sugary, starchy carbs. Like
Mhm.
that's what we reach for, right? And
Mhm.
so when you don't get enough sleep, you reach for that stuff, and then that's when the weight tends to pile on.
Yes.
So sleep, people think they can skip it, but it's not optional. It is
It is.
necessary
It
for health.
is. And again, I have learned that the hard way.
Too.
So we know, as busy moms, busy women, sleep is sometimes a luxury, getting the amount of sleep that you
Mhm.
need. And that's something that I've been trying to do more of is rest in general, because
Yeah.
your body needs it for so many different reasons, to just recycle, to refresh, renew. And then, like you said, you're not able to control those cravings. Your body is naturally craving or wanting, the sweets or what the carbs, whatever it is,
Mhm.
because it's just depleted, and it
Yeah.
it doesn't, it hasn't had rest. And if you think about it, when are you able to be your best self or to be more in control? And so when we're talking about having self control,
Yeah.
if you're tired all the time, you're probably not going to have very much self control and willpower. Now, I know
No.
for me, I love coffee. And because, see, I knew I liked you. But the problem with my coffee consumption is I do love cream. And so
Mhm.
I've tried different things. I've tried, sugar-free creams. I've tried some more natural options. I've tried, oftentimes I'll use like a stevia or something
Mhm.
like that
Yeah.
for a sugar replacement. And I'm
Mhm.
sure that's still not the best. So I do try to make some alternatives. But if I got more rest, then again, I wouldn't be so reliant
Yeah.
on coffee every day.
Yeah.
So, speaking of coffee, we have a comment about is having coffee each morning okay, or is that too much?
No, 100% have your coffee.
If it's
Have
gonna keep me sane and not like a monster,
Yeah.
maybe I
I
need it.
mean, okay, so I will say this, because you and I both have a coffee problem probably because I drink coffee too. I have started trying to there again with the mind, I have started trying to trick my brain and
Mhm,
do decaf, so this is decaf I'm drinking right now.
mhm.
Um, so I'll kinda switch it up and because sometimes I just like the taste of it,
Yes.
and I just want
Yeah.
the
The
warm it's
warmth.
like a
Yep.
it's just it's a
I love
comfort
the
thing, like,
smell. Mhm.
yes, the smell, I can sit down in the morning with my coffee and my Bible and my blanket, and
Mm.
it's a whole vibe, right?
Yes, yes.
Um, but that brings me so much joy to have my coffee, and if I didn't have my coffee, I wouldn't be so joyful in the morning, so
Yeah.
yes, have your coffee, and there are certain benefits to coffee. Now, with anything else, there again, have too much, it's not a
Mhm.
good thing, anything in excess, and if you have too much caffeinated coffee, that can, cause anxiety and things like that.
Yeah.
So if you
Mhm,
already have issues with anxiety or worriness or stress or whatever, probably need to keep it to 2 to 3 cups a day. If
mhm,
you have, like, excessive anxiety, you might just need to cut back to 1 cup a day of caffeinated coffee. There's a book by Becky Thompson called Peace. And I never put the two and two together about coffee and anxiety until I read that book.
mhm,
And the whole book is about moms dealing with anxiety. Because I had some pretty bad postpartum anxiety after Grayson
mhm,
was born. I didn't know it at the time, I
mhm.
didn't know what I was going through. But when I read that book, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense after he was born. And I was surviving and drinking that 12 cups of coffee a day while I was so anxious all the
Yeah.
time. But yes, there are benefits to coffee in moderation, so please drink your
In
coffee.
moderation. Yep.
Yes.
And as I mentioned, find some healthier alternatives,
Mhm.
so that it doesn't have to be the sugary coffee cup. And maybe you don't need to do it as much, cut
Yeah.
back if you can. Try some
Yeah.
decaf if you can. So
Yep.
definitely love that. And so that is a way that you can break maybe the addiction or the need for sugar
Mhm.
while you're drinking coffee. But what are some other ways that you can start working on some of those addictions?
So, on the sugar addiction or in
Hmm.
food addiction in general?
Well, both.
Yeah, so I this is where we kinda get into living healthy and food freedom,
Hmm.
a little bit is it's not having that relationship with food, right? That unhealthy relationship with
Hmm.
food where we're addicted to it and we have to
Hmm.
have it and we have no control over it. It's ditching the restriction and diet culture and truly living in a world where food no longer rules you. Um,
Hmm.
on either side of the spectrum, like being overweight or living in that restrictive, because I've been on both sides, right?
Hmm.
Um, I lived in a world where I had anxiety about going to eat with friends because there was nothing I could eat, right?
Hmm.
And that's such a sad place to live, both sides, where food has such a hold on you, but then also not wanting to eat because you can't have it. Like that's both are sad places to live.
Hmm.
Um, and honestly, the only way to achieve true food freedom and ditching those addictions is by giving this area over to God.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that we as women of faith will go to God with almost everything else without
Hmm.
hesitation,
Hmm.
but we don't really think that God cares about our weight.
Hmm.
Um, but think about it. If it's important to you, it's important to Him.
Hmm.
And honestly, your weight and the nutrients you are or aren't putting in your body matter a lot when it comes
Hmm.
to your overall health. And you
Hmm.
have to be healthy to go out and live and fulfill the greater purpose you are put on this earth to do.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
so giving this area over to God and giving yourself grace. Um, you're going to need grace as you break
Mhm.
through these strongholds and break through these addictive cycles.
Mhm.
Grace and gratitude, they help to heal all wounds. And these two things help to heal the unhealthy relationship most of us have or have had in the past with food.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes, the struggle is still there. We've given it over to God, and the enemy, he knows what we are addicted to. He knows those strongholds, and he tries to come at us with them, right?
Mhm.
Um, our emotions play a huge factor too,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
So we don't need to suppress them or dismiss them, because when we try to, push them down and make ourselves wrong, when we're like, I thought I was over this addiction. Why am I still wanting this? Like we have this inner struggle battle. When we try to do that, we totally, go in the opposite direction. So we need to be mindful of our
Mhm.
emotions. And so many times when we're craving foods and feel like we just have no control, it's honestly because we have some sort of emotional need not being met.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
I constantly remind my clients that I work with to ask themselves two questions before they eat. Ask, why am I eating this? Before you just, go cramming, why am I eating this?
Mhm.
Am I hungry? Am I legitimately hungry? Or am I bored? Am I
Mhm.
sad? Am
Mhm.
I, am I happy? Because sometimes we emotionally eat when we're happy, right?
Yes.
And then the other question is this worth it to me? So
Mhm.
if it's a birthday that you're out celebrating, have a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Enjoy the people, enjoy the company, have a piece of cake. If you love
Mhm.
cake, if you don't love cake, don't have it. You don't have to. You
Mhm.
don't have to people please when you eat, right?
Mhm.
But if you're standing in the pantry trying to hide from your kids, cramming your mouth full of cookies, it's probably not worth it.
Yeah.
So just asking yourself those two things, and then, like I said, just giving this area over to God, because He truly cares, really
Mhm.
does. And if it's a struggle for you, just like any other area of life, He wants you to come to Him with it. He's waiting with open arms,
Mhm.
waiting for you to come.
Yeah. That is beautiful. I love that. Um, as you mentioned, we typically, as women, feel like, oh, well, I don't think God's really concerned about my weight. Maybe He's more
Mm,
so concerned about my heart. Well,
yeah,
okay, yeah, that he is concerned about your heart. He wants you to have a healthy heart and
yeah,
continue to have that. But he wants you to be happy and to be your best self. And he has not put us here on earth to just continue to live a life of lack and to suffer.
right.
And so, if that means that you can feel better, you can live better by making some changes to your lifestyle, then do it and make sure that you include God in it, include Him in
Yeah,
everything that you do. Um,
yeah,
and I loved how you talked about grace and gratitude. I put it in the comments as well. And how grace and gratitude heal all wounds and break food addictions as well, because
yeah,
sometimes we're so hard on ourselves and
right,
we're not thankful for the progress that we are making.
right.
And we're just always like, oh, we can do better, we can do better. That may be true, but let's have some grace and gratitude for the moment that we're in.
Yeah, and celebrate the wins too,
Hmm.
with the gratitude, because we get in those places where this is a big one. Like we messed up, right? We went to a Mexican restaurant and we ate the whole basket of chips.
Uh-huh.
Speaking from experience there.
Yes.
But we mess up. We're going to do it. So we mess up. We get on the scale the next morning and we're up. You know.
Hmm.
First of all, the scale is a liar, so please don't let that dictate your
Uh-huh.
happiness. Um, but second of all, like let's write down the things that went well. Like, am I fitting into a smaller pant size, or do I have more energy to go play with my kids?
Hmm.
Or am I sleeping better? Do my joints ache? Are they feeling better? Like all of those things. Let's write down some things that are going well. Who cares about that silly number? We
Hmm.
don't, nobody knows that number but us,
Hmm.
right? We're not wearing it on our sleeve. It's not flashing on our forehead for people to
Yeah.
see. Um, doesn't matter. So yes, we are going to mess up. We are going to go. It's called a journey for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
right? We need to find the good points and the joy and the blessings and the opportunity and the learning that comes through
Mm-hmm.
the journey, right? Because we're
Mm-hmm.
never going to be done, even when we lose the weight. You know, we're still striving to treat our bodies as temples, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
always a
Right.
journey, it's always a process. So
Mm-hmm.
finding the gratitude and also extending the grace that God has already given. We just have to apply it to ourselves instead of
Mm-hmm.
pushing it away. Because really, He's giving us grace. We don't need to push it away.
Yeah.
It's a gift. Grace is such a
Mm-hmm.
gift.
It is.
We,
It definitely is. Yeah. And speaking of just grace and what God has given us to just live this life that we're living, are there
Mhm.
any particular scriptures that one can reference if maybe they're just wanting some confirmation that
Yeah,
the change that they're making is even of God or that's
yeah.
godly? Or maybe when they're feeling low and they're feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm really having a craving. Um, and they just want something to boost their spirits and help
Mhm.
them to withstand. Do you have any recommendations for scriptures?
I'm so glad you asked. So the first one is 1 Corinthians 10:13.
Hmm.
No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not
Mm,
let you be tempted beyond what you can bear, but when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it.
mm,
I love that He will provide a way out. And that's where you have to search, or you don't have to search. You just have to grab the hand that's extended, right? Because his hand's
mhm.
always extended. You just have to grab and be like, okay, God, I need a way out. And there he
Yeah,
goes. He pull you up out
yeah.
of the muck and mire. And then
Mhm,
another good one that I have for this is 1 Corinthians 6:12. And it's, I have the right to do anything you say, but not everything is beneficial. I
mm.
have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything. So, yes, we have the right to do
Mhm,
it. You're having a craving, you have the right. You have the right to do anything you
mhm,
feel in the moment, but not everything is beneficial,
mhm.
especially when it comes to food. And doing what we feel in the moment can lead to unhealthy habits like emotional eating or binge
Mhm,
eating, losing our self control when it comes to food and forming addictions. So those are two good places. And this type of food freedom that we're talking about tonight, it's found in Jesus.
mhm,
Freedom in Jesus. It means finding the proper place that food has in our lives, using it for fuel as it was intended, and not letting it rule our thoughts or our lives.
mhm,
Think about this, like God sent his son to this lost and dying world to be everything we need,
mhm.
to be a savior to meet all of our needs. And that is something that food can never do.
Mm, yes, very true.
Food is never going to fix the problem. And we kind of talked about this earlier about gluttony being a sin that no one likes to talk about. It's something that needs to be addressed because finding food freedom is finding freedom from the bondage of this sin. Um, it's taking it to Christ and asking him for help in this area and then allowing him to come in and take this burden and this bondage and not pick it up again.
Mhm,
Like that's grace that we've been
mhm.
talking about. You now there's a difference. Like you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over and, asking for forgiveness knowing you're going to go back and do it. Like
Yeah.
that's not what I'm talking about. It's trying and moving forward and, switching your mindset and doing the work. And when you mess up, yes, there is grace that covers that.
Mhm,
But you will be so much more successful through this if you take it to God and let him pick up the burden and let him
mhm,
take over. Like you don't have to stay in bondage. You don't have to stay in this unhealthy relationship with food.
mhm,
You don't have to stay stuck because we do have a place we can go. Like freedom is found in Jesus, and this
mhm,
pertains to freedom too.
mhm. Yeah, I absolutely love that. I think that that's beautiful how you put it, and freedom is. It is in Jesus. And, we tend to exclude food
Mhm.
from our request, or from those thoughts of, maybe I'm doing too much. Maybe I should scale back.
Yeah.
We just tend to exclude those things, and we don't think that we need to bring them up as concerns or prayer requests.
Yeah.
But absolutely, we should include that, because it can be a stronghold. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so I mentioned in the comments 1 Corinthians 10 and 13, and then 1 Corinthians 6 and 12. Is that right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's
Okay,
it.
great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Like I said, that last part was just so beautifully put. I just think that many people just need to hear that.
Yeah.
Definitely needed to hear that message. Can
Yeah.
you share a little bit more about how people can find you and maybe what services you offer?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm on Facebook and Instagram as Rachel Meggs King. Meggs is Meigs. That was my maiden name that nobody knows how to pronounce. So, but I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I have a free community on Facebook. And if you go to my Instagram and go to my bio, you can find the links to all of these things. But I have a free community you can join on Facebook. I have a podcast. Um, it's called Feed Yourself: Healthy Habits for the Mind, Body, and Soul. So I'd love if you came over and listened to that. There's some good
Hmm.
nuggets. I love that platform because I get to boldly share, just like we did tonight,
Hmm.
about these kind of things and incorporating God into all areas of our lives.
Hmm.
And as far as services that I provide, I do customized one-on-one nutrition coaching, and of course, mindset is a huge piece of that. So we definitely focus on nutrition, but mindset is the game changer. And
Yeah.
then I offer group coaching as well. And if you're not ready for investing in the whole 12-week program, I do offer laser coaching sessions. So that's a one-time 90-minute call that we can have together. I coach you just like I would any other client. We kind of hone in on one major problem you have. So lots of different options there for coaching, but
Hmm.
coaching is my passion. I hope that came through tonight, like how passionate I am about this topic and getting this message out, and just really being bold about
Hmm.
how mindset and faith and
Yes.
health are so important and can change your life.
Yes, definitely. Definitely, definitely. So I've put your Facebook and IG contact information in the comments. Definitely look Rachel up and look up the podcast and all things that you're doing for coaching as well. I just love the mission that you're helping people to empower themselves, physically and mentally and spiritually. I love that as well. This is the She Exudes Now virtual talk. It is mimicked off of the devotional that I have, She Exudes. And in the devotional, it covers accepting yourself and being good to yourself and mindset. That's a big one. So if you are struggling or you just want to enhance your life and enhance your ability to be more aware, then definitely check out that devotional. You can find it on my website at confidentlily.com. So thank you everyone for watching. And thank you so much, Rachel, for joining us today. And everyone have a great night.